Hello there. Today I saw the controversial new film Snow White, and now I want to talk about it. It's a live-action reimagining of the classic fairy tale. Written by Aaron Cressida Wilson and directed by Mark Webb. This film stars Rachel Zegler, Gal Gadot, and Andrew Burnap. Okay, you've probably heard 1,000 things about this film already. Everything from how awful the CGI is to complaints about the actors and actresses' appearances. I'm here to tell you that while it isn't the worst film ever, it definitely sucks and deserves at least some of the hate coming its way. To begin, let's define it. Like the classic fairy tale, this story takes place in a magical medieval kingdom. There's a family of monarchs living happily with their people. Then the queen dies and the king is bewitched by an evil enchantress. The enchantress then sends the king off to die and imprisons his daughter Snow White. Then she grows up and starts becoming beautiful. The new queen sees her as a threat to her power and tries to have her killed, but the princess escapes into the forest. There, she makes new friends and allies before returning to the kingdom to set things right. Everything takes place in two major locations: the forest where the dwarves live and Snow White's kingdom. The visual journey is a mixture of CGI and real sets and actors. They have the real sets so the actors can move around and have something to interact with, and then they overlay CGI backgrounds and characters on the screen. For action, they've got song and dance numbers where the characters participate in complex routines with extras and background characters joining in. There's also a teeny weeny little bit of fighting in the second half of the film and a whiff of a romance story. Sound-wise, the film uses scored orchestrals to help build up the emotional journey and fill it out. They also have song and dance numbers where the characters sing about their emotions in detail and express their desires for the future. Alright, there's a lot wrong with this film, but let's start with what they got right. The cast does an okay job with the material aside from one particular actress. Most of them are playing townsfolk, soldiers, or dwarves. They play them in a very stereotypical fashion and give the story a ham-fisted kind of vibe. The big roles in the film are Snow White, the evil queen, and Jonathan, the love interest. Snow White, played by Rachel Zegler, is a very safe role. Zegler plays it pretty and naive with a touch of the old Virgin Mary stereotype rearing its ugly head. She does an okay job of the emotions they give her and shows a decent amount of chemistry with Burnap. Zegler is at her best when singing though. Her voice is quite lovely to listen to and she nails her vocal parts. Andrew Burnap plays Jonathan, the love interest, a random knight in the woods who ends up falling for the princess in a highly cliché way. Burnap plays it like Link from the old cartoon. He's grumpy, he's sarcastic, and he slowly learns to appreciate the princess's charms. Burnap shows the best emotional range in the film and a decent amount of chemistry with the rest of the cast. Visually, the film presents a journey that is simple and easy to understand. It's a princess fleeing from her tower to spend some time living with the dwarves before heading back and confronting the queen. They play the visual journey in the safest manner possible, using costumes and makeup to create the human characters and using CGI for the animals, backgrounds, and dwarves. The dwarves are a little abominable, but the rest of the CGI is okay. It's got enough detail that the kingdom can look kind of cool, and all the animals running around making a fuss is pretty fun. There is a bit of CGI overload going on, but they do a decent job of balancing it with the real sets and characters. Sound-wise, they created a classic-sounding Disney track. It's got big scored songs that follow the emotional journey precisely and elevate every single moment. They make the journey feel epic and charged up. They also give a sort of classical feeling that helps sell the fairy tale atmosphere. When it comes to the big song and dance numbers, they did an okay job. The lyrics are relevant to what's going on and are kind of catchy. Not enough to really stand out, but good enough to be entertaining in the moment. Which brings me to the film's negatives. The visual journey has two real flaws. One, they definitely should have cast real people as the dwarves instead of creating a CGI monster with mocap. They look super weird and cartoonish when the rest of the CGI is more realistic looking. They also could have gotten a lot more out of the storyline with a real actor playing Dopey. He has lines and emotional moments. Trying to animate that kind of thing next to real people doing it too is never going to go well. Two, they should have gone harder with the effects. It's a tale about a princess retaking her kingdom, and the best visual they have is people clashing swords like it's the 80s. The climax of the movie is also extremely lame. The confrontation between Snow White and the Evil Queen is basically just two people talking at each other with a crowd of robots behind them. Cast-wise, there's a big hole. Gal Gadot has never been a strong actress, but in this film, she takes the cake for falling flat. She plays the Evil Queen like a petty high school bully. She deadpan delivers every line like she just died and shows about as much personality as a wet paper towel. They don't actually let her do much, aside from 2 songs, but she still manages to mess that up. Story-wise is where the film really falls apart. They don't explain anything. There's a bunch of loose threads that never get tied up, and nothing actually happens besides a bunch of talking. They took the classic fairy tale and drained all the sense of danger and impact from it. One of the worst problems is how they introduce a problem and then immediately solve it. Jonathan got hit with an arrow? Better take him to doc so he can be good as new 5 minutes later. There was no sense of suspense or buildup, just flat delivery every time. The characters are bland, one-note stereotypes that sink the tale. The villains are incompetent and just let the heroes do whatever they want. Snow White and Jonathan are boring tropes, and even the Enchantress is a lame wimp who never actually does anything. Rather than bringing life to the fairy tale, they drained anything even remotely interesting from it, and created yet another sad cliché. Personally, I was bored about halfway through the film and couldn't wait for it to end. It just feels like the kind of tale people don't want to hear anymore. It's very simplistic in how it presents the world. It doesn't have nuanced characters that you want to root for. It's just bland garbage. I don't even accept the idea that this is good for kids. I wasn't watching tropey trash like this when I was 10. I was reading about hobbits and Redwall Abbey. Those tales managed to take adult themes and package them for kids while still creating interesting artworks with good moral lessons. And they did that a long time ago. Surely Disney can figure it out today. As for a rating, I'd give this a 4 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye.